Before we get started with today's episode, I want to let you know about our current Design Her Travel newsletter. It is where we share all of the behind the scenes of the episode, my own personal stories, and travel tips that can help you travel longer for less or create the life of your dreams. It really is a place to connect even more deeply with Design Her Travel, and I would love for you to hop on our weekly newsletter. I won't spam you with daily email, but I will send you one beautiful newsletter a week. So if you are interested, then click the link in the show notes and get started now. I will see you there.
You don't have to go back and live the life you thought you would or were told you should. And because it really was a hard thing to shake. And we were like, well, if we're happy and, we're meeting our needs and continuing to learn and grow together, like, forget those rules. Let's continue. Let's write new rules.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Design Her Travel podcast. I'm your host, Kim Anderson. As an avid traveler, global nomad, and someone who considers themselves a citizen of the world, I want to say welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. My hope in creating this podcast is to inspire you to take the leap of faith and to design the life of your dreams. For me, that includes connecting with like-minded individuals and creating a community of souls living their best lives out in and around the world. Each week, you'll hear stories and conversations from fellow travelers who have figured out how to incorporate travel as a key component in their daily lives. Their stories are beautiful and inspiring, just like you. I can't wait to go on this journey with you. So let's do this. Here we go. Hello, 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 beautiful souls. Welcome back to today's episode of the Design Her Travel podcast. I'm your host, Kim Anderson, and I hope you are ready for an exciting episode. This conversation has been long in the making, and today I have on the show Mike and Ann Howard. They are not only well-known travel entrepreneurs, but they are famous for being on the world's longest honeymoon. They left on their honeymoon in January 2012 and never came home. They created HoneyTrek to chronicle their journey across 7 continents and 80 countries and counting. Believers that love and travel make the world a better place, they authored and photographed Ultimate Journeys for Two, National Geographic's best-selling book on couples adventure travel. So welcome to the show, Mike and Ann. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, we're excited to be here.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us, Kim.
Yes. And so where are you coming to us from today?
We are checking in from Baja, Mexico.
Baja California.
Baja California de Mexico. We're about halfway down, just right. We're on the border where it turns from Baja Norte to Baja Sur in our camper van, just doing our little annual tradition. Come down here, reset, get some warm weather, and get ready for the next year to come.
Oh, I love it. And so, I have to say, world's longest honeymoon. When you got said I do, was this like what you envisioned when you were on the altar declaring your love? You're like, yes, this is what I see in our future.
We actually professed it to the entire, wedding group there to say, this is how we want to start our life together, to start with a true adventure and to go out there and learn and have these shared life experiences we thought would be an incredible foundation for a marriage. And we kind of said it to the 150 people in the audience just to kind of keep us honest and keep us to it. Because, it was a scary thing to leave a perfectly good life. We lived in New York City. We both had good jobs, good community. And we had a moment to go, why are we blowing up a perfectly good life here? Is a scary thing to do. But if we didn't pick that date, you'll always come up with excuses. So therefore, we're like, nope, everyone here, we are leaving January 22nd, 2012. And, we look to you for that support and that love and blessing to send us out in the world. And that made the whole process that much easier, knowing we had our family and friends behind us.
I love that. And that's such a declaration of your love, your relationship, and what became HoneyTrek. What a beautiful journey. And so how long after you started on your honeymoon were you like, we're doing this forever? Like, this is what we want to do. Did it take very long for that to sink in that this was the reality you love?
I mean, when we left, we thought it was going to be 1 year. So we were pretty set that we were going to come back to New York and do the whole white picket fence and just climb the corporate ladder and like have this travel kind of not out of the way, but check that off and out of our system. Like, okay, we just went for 12 months and we saw all the things we wanted to see in the world. We'll keep traveling, but we'll go back to the corporate world. So that was always the plan because that was all we ever knew. Like all anybody knows is what they all see all their friends doing. And all of our friends were making babies and making more money and just climbing that ladder. So that's definitely what we assumed. And I would say for most of that first year, that was the plan. Like, yep, we'll go back to New York and get back on the wheel. But somewhere in there, our blog HoneyTrek started blossoming a little bit and people started reaching out for either interviews or to ask us to write for their publication. And so we made a little bit of money as freelance writers and photographers. And then enough that we said, okay, let's go for 2 years. And our budget was lasting longer than we expected because long-term travel is way less expensive than quick little 10-day, 2-week trips that we all take when we're working that high-paying job. And so our budget was lasting longer. So we said, let's go for 2 years. And then during that second year, we had a realization that we just loved telling stories. We liked running HoneyTrek together. There was a lot more of the world than we thought on that initial writing out all our bucket lists. There were so many more cool things to do. We had fun on the journey a lot more than we thought. It wasn't just like getting to these cool destinations. And then as a writer, it was fulfilling for her. I loved taking pictures. We loved inspiring other people to kind of break the mold a little bit. So then 2 years turned to 3. Nat Geo approached us, I think it was in year 3, to write their first book on couples adventure travel. So then we're like, well, we got to go for another year while we're writing this book. So one thing just kind of snowballed into the next.
Then we kind of forgave ourselves to go, you don't have to go back and live the life you thought you would or were told you should. And because it really was a hard thing to shake, because I was like, I turned 35 and I was like, well, you have to have kids if you're 35. Like, this is your last window. And then we just, do we have to do that? No. And do we have to go back and get on the corporate ladder? No, you don't. But it's so ingrained in you from an early age. This is what life should look like at all these different stages. And we were like, well, if we're happy and, we're meeting our needs and continuing to learn and grow together, like, forget those rules. Let's continue. Let's write new rules. And yeah, once we kind of let that go, we're like, broke, don't fix it. Like, this is fantastic. And we continue to challenge ourselves and find new ways to explore. And it seems to be endless. So people are like, so when are you going to settle down? I'm like, as long as these things, it's bringing happiness and we're finding success in our lives, we're thinking like, let's keep it going as long as we're happy. And
I love asking people when they say, oh, when are you going to settle down? Because to Anne's point, everybody assumes that that's the way to continue your life. So I always ask them, I'm like, well, when are you not going to settle down? Like, when are you going to get out on the road and go travel for 1 or 2 or 5 years? Because that to me is the question from my perspective. This is way more fun and affordable and fulfilling than being in a house and paying utility bills and grinding away at work so you can go explore for 10 days a year if you're lucky.
But when we started planning this trip in 2011, there weren't a lot of examples out there. So it seemed extra scary. Now it's like digital nomad, and it's a much more developed concept, and people that people have taken that leap. In the beginning, we had few role models in this, and one fantastic, I'll shout out Sherry Ott and Michaela Potter, who started something called Meet Plan Go. And their whole goal was to have every American have a career break on their resume. That the idea is that you're not dropping out, you're actually developing a new part of your brain, your communication skills, negotiating skills. There's so many things you learn from travel, and that's marketable so that you can come back to a job and actually probably the best candidate in the pile because you have this global perspective and resilience. So we thought of it as a career break either way. And I think if more people thought of it that way, is like, oh, you have to go forever. You're not quitting. It's that you're investing in yourself and different ways of thinking and learning and loving.
I love that. And I love that perspective. And you guys must have come to the table with some pretty marketable skills anyway, because HoneyTrek is omnipresent. You are everywhere. And from someone who creates content, that is impressive. You can't go anywhere without seeing you. And I'm like, you have some mad skills to start. So what were your backgrounds and how did you decide? You said you loved taking photos and you loved writing. So did you just naturally develop who took care of what? And as you evolved and became HoneyTrek?
Well, I'd like to say to all the English majors out there, when you were told, oh, so you want to be a fourth grade teacher? And you're like, no, there are other jobs you can have with an English degree. Thank you very much. And so I did always know I wanted to be a writer and started working, getting internships in magazines. And that was the idea. And I did work for magazines for major publishers in New York City, mostly around interior design. I did have that traditional publishing background and foundation, which was helpful, more so like writing as a hobby. Like I knew how to write professionally. And he started a social network before Mark Zuckerberg. Like Mike has deep-seated social media skills and marketing skills from before like the internet was really even taking off. So that doesn't make him 1,000 years old, but he was an early adopter in the start of college. When you heard about the internet, you're like, that is the future. And you jumped on board. And I think that foundation served you and us really well.
Totally. And being entrepreneurial, like I have never had a W-2 from a company in my entire life. So, I ran my company in New York for 11 years, and then I did 1 year of freelance just to get ready before we set out on the road. But it's not so much that I had any skills that were perfect for HoneyTrek, although, just liking photography is a helpful one, and knowing a little bit of tech so that I can run our WordPress site and do like little bits of code here and there. That's also helpful. But I think more just having that mindset of being an entrepreneur, never having a boss my entire life.
Started making buttons for like local politicians as an 8-year-old and then bought his own hot dog wagon when he was like 15. Like the man's really always worked for himself.
So that kind of like gives you a different mindset of what's possible. And you see a lot more opportunity when you're your own boss and you can choose the path you go on. And then, it just becomes addictive. Like being a nomad is addictive because you can choose where you want to live, how long you want to stay, how you want to earn your money, how much you want to earn. And also we can dive into that deeper later. But when as a nomad or somebody who travels slowly, your burn rate is so much less than if you're living, especially in a big city, Miami, New York, Chicago, or even rural. Like you've got a lot of expenses that pile up that you don't really think about, but you're just, you're churning to try and feed that machine or all the consumption issues that we've got in North America and the world. So when you cut those things out and your burn rate goes down a lot, you can really choose the path you go to what brings you joy and not just what brings you a paycheck.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that's the thing that's most present in your work and your creations from this perspective is that you really have crafted a brand. It's around who you are as people. So you're able to earn an income and have a living by just being you and your passions. And I love that you have that entrepreneurial streak because that, you just are able to create what you want in life. And it's beautiful. I know I have a background in the private yacht industry. So I've seen people that live and work together 24/7. And I know that comes with very special perks and challenges. But what would you say to people who are interested in maybe creating a business together and they're traveling the world? Like, what's the secret sauce to make it work?
One, you have to love each other and you have to love what you do. I think part of it is that we didn't ever try and do this because we thought this was like a big money maker. We did it because this was shared passions and we were willing to take sacrifices. We both cared about the same things. And
I would add in that like it's very difficult to see the world and capture the content, create the content. Doing those three things aren't super hard. But if you also want to monetize that and find partners, it can get pretty difficult and stressful. Obviously, it depends the speed that you travel. If you're going to do, 1, 2, 3 months in a city or a country, that's a much more attainable thing. But the first 2 years, we traveled at a pretty breakneck speed, mostly because we were doing it off of our savings and we weren't needing to earn an income along the way. So we traveled affordably, but we still did things we wanted to do. And we saw a ton of places. But travel is a job, especially if you're moving every 2 or 3 days, booking hotels, transportation, all that stuff is a part-time job, if not a full-time job. So then when you layer onto that creating content, and I think a lot of people listening to this and just people who consume travel content see these amazing destinations, these content creators cranking things out, getting sponsored, going on free trips or getting paid for their travels, but they don't see the tremendous on that. We just did a reel. If you go on our Instagram, you'll see a reel about this glamping camp that we stayed at. And the reel is 58 seconds long. And that reel took us man hours between the two of us, between shooting it, voiceovers, editing it, and posting it on social media.
Without falling into the AI world, we're like holdouts here. We're like, sure, there are more efficient ways to do this, but we also take a lot of pride in doing things our way as well.
Creating it ourselves. But it took about 18 man hours to create a 58-second reel. And that wasn't including the time on site, which was 2 days that we were there shooting. But 18 hours to create something that you look at and might just flick by and say, oh, that was cute. So I think a lot of people don't realize the amount of work that goes into that and how that can cause stress on your partnership. Thankfully, Anne does a great job at that, and I let her take the lead in a lot of that creation.
Well, that was sort of to your question too, is like roles, right? We're lucky we just have kind of different strengths and interests. So it's sort of understood. We're not butting heads about stuff. It's kind of like, Mike's like chief routing executive, like he's running logistics for HoneyTrek on a pretty intense level of dealing with flights and hotels and the whole big calendar. And then I'm more like the person, like what's happening on the ground and what are the stories we're telling. And then, I'll edit down the photos, but he's like just really good at Lightroom and Photoshop and I'm not. So like we kind of break down to like, you're good at this, run with it. You're good at that, run with it. And then come together at the end to go, do we feel good about this? What needs to be changed? So kind of edit each other the final steps, but don't get in each other's way.
And one tip I would give to people, you were saying like somebody else who's thinking about getting into this, or even I give this advice because we do some long-term travel consulting for people that want to go on a 2-month to 10-year long trip. We consult with them and kind of tell them some of these roadblocks and how to overcome them and just all the things that people don't know about because it's not the same as your normal 2-week trip. So when we do that, we always tell people, take you and your partner before you like quit your job for sell everything, go on a small trip together, small trip, let's call it 3 to 5 weeks somewhere, take a long break off of work or a little sabbatical and just go somewhere without plans, without anything pre-booked, and just go there and see how you travel as a couple before you make this plan to go on a 12, 16 month long trip. Go do a smaller version. And it could be the same thing for creating content. Like just make a little fun Facebook page. And for that 1 month trip you go on, just see what it's like creating content and seeing how you guys work together. Then maybe come back, pick up some more freelance work and earn some more money while you really put a big plan in motion. But doing like a little test case is sometimes better. And also just don't be so hard on yourself because, sometimes when you start on this, it's always good to have a nice little runway of cash so that you're not stressed. Like, okay, we've got $5,000. We can last 1 month out there or 2, depending obviously where you go in the world.
Everything takes longer than expected to get it rolling. So you can't feel that external pressure and have to quit sooner than you needed to because you didn't manage the expectations of like what really these things just take time.
Yeah. And having that extra money set aside for travel and, going out with a decent nest egg will let you see the world a little slower. It'll make your content better because you won't be just like trying to churn things that are going to get high page views or do clickbaity articles. You're going to find your groove and find the niche that you really like. Yeah, those are just a few tips for other people thinking about it.
I love it. I think people don't realize how much it takes, how much time goes behind the scenes for those 2 seconds of appreciation on the screen. People have no idea unless you do it. And so I always ask people because if you've never created any sort of content, you have no idea the volume of time that goes on in the backside. So I also tell people, if you love a creator, then give them a shout out, comment, say something, let them know, like send a kind word, because so many times people create beautiful things and just like silence. I'm like, tell the person, let them know this is amazing. Thank you for creating it.
Good message out there. Because it's like, they're all humans behind this, no matter how big you are or not. Like we are putting ourselves out there so hard. You feel so vulnerable, right? So when you hear a little word of encouragement, know that that does mean a lot to every creator out there. And we always try to respond to everybody because it keeps us inspired when we get some nice comments.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what is your travel like? I mean, you're constantly traveling, you're nomadic. So how do you plan your whole year out? Do you travel solely for fun? Is most of it work? Like, how does your life look now as in the travel sphere and the lifestyle?
Well, the last few years, it's about to change dramatically in a month, which we'll tell you about. But over the last few years, it's been a pretty healthy. I mean, we choose what mix we want of work and fun. I mean, that's another thing about being an entrepreneur, as you know. you're always on. There's always something you can do to make your business better. So there's a constant push and pull. It's 8 o'clock and there's nothing really pressing, but there's something I can do to make my site faster or send out one more pitch for a country we're going to for some glamping camp we want to stay at. So it is hard when there's not a boss telling you, okay, you need to work from 8 to 5 and then you're off on your own. You can watch your TV shows and you get weekends off. Like there are no weekends. There are no days off, the days off that you choose to put in there.
Well,
So
our life is so intertwined. Like the work and pleasure is so blurred in our world, and we know how to manage it. This is a good example right now. We're traveling in Baja with some friends, and she has like a 9 to 5 that she keeps most of the week
remotely.
And he is actually a tour guide, so he's seasonal, and he's now working it all. So looking at us like, you guys are working so much. I'm like, me? I woke up we took a big kayak adventure this morning. We did cocktail stuff. And we we break up our day with fun things, but we do come back and do some work. So it's kind of like you always make sure you have something fun every day or something interesting every day. But then, it can't be vacation all the time. You have to remember, like, you are running a business. You can't just perpetually on a vacation. But I do think you can find a balance with like little breaks. And
totally. And that balance also extends out to an entire year for us. Like we'll get a work project, destination, wherever that is. Let's say it's Thailand or Germany. And we'll go there. We'll do some work for that 1 week or 10 days, whether it's a glamping camp or a tourism board. We go there, we do that work project, we create some content around that, and then we will never fly right home immediately or fly to the next destination. We'll always tell that partner, when you're booking our return flight or if we're booking our own, depending how that works, we always book in 2, 3, 4 weeks in either that city or that region, so that we can then go do some exploring on our own, get a long-term Airbnb and get some work done there and kind of become local, because that keeps us from getting burnt out and we're already in that destination. So it's not like we leave and then later we say, oh, I wish we could go back to that certain part of Germany or a certain part of Thailand. Well, then flying back there, now you're $2,000 out of your pocket when we're already there.
You have sort of tent poles throughout the year, like say there's a few key travel conferences we go to. And then we'll build out from there. Okay, we know we're going to be in Berlin for this show, and we have been invited on a ski trip in Bulgaria in 2 months from now. Well, let's turn that into a really rad Eastern Europe overlanding trip. And we picked up a house sit in Romania as well. But it was just a few things in the year, and then we fill in the gaps. We actually don't overschedule because there's so many fun things that happen organically. And I hate being like, oh, nope, can't. I like more yes than no in my life. And if you leave more flexibility in your schedule, so many more opportunities arise. Opportunities we could have seized that, if we were too scheduled in, then you would have missed. So I think that's true of actually normal vacations as well. Do not overschedule yourself. The magic of travel is in the unexpected, and let that happen. It's very scary for people when they have 10 days and they might have a hiccup and then it might not be as fun as that they plan, but there also might be this like festival or this wonderful family that you met. And now you can, just run with it because you weren't, had 10 theater tickets and this tour every other hour,
Yeah, I love that. And I like more yeses than nos in my life. So you guys have also built in your brand, sustainability and sustainable travel is very important to you. And your latest book is Comfortably Wild. And so tell the listeners a little bit about what that book is.
So Comfortably Wild is the first edition, is called The Best Glamping Destinations in North America is the subtitle. Glamping is a style of lodging that we fell in love with early on because we are adventurous people. We're also out on our honeymoons. The idea of matching a bit of those creature comforts with big adventures. Our first one ever was in Torres del Paine in Patagonia. And the idea of being out there and hiking a glacier and then having to shuttle back to the nearest town, versus being immersed in that destination. We want to have, find places that are enmeshed in the natural environment versus big boxes built out of town. And we also love that they were run by these inspiring people who took the risk to build this thing out in the middle of nowhere and off grid and go and share it with guests like us. So we started honing on this travel style. So actually Falcon Guide saw that we've been writing a lot about glamping and they said, hey, no one's written a book about glamping. You guys have a lot of experience with this. We've been writing for glamping.com for years. And he said, we want you to do it. And we said, challenge accepted. We took 2 years to write that book. There were 9 countries in it. We drove to all 50 states for that book, as far as the Arctic Circle, down the Baja Peninsula, because we wanted to meet the people behind these places. We wanted to go on the adventures. We wanted to see what it felt like to sleep in a teepee versus a dome, and to be able to speak about these things from experience, not just like everyone else, look at the top 10 glamping lists online. Because once we started to do that, we're like, people haven't even been there. Like, these are the same marketing photos getting circulated around. Like, we need to be able to tell this with authority. These are truly special places. So now the big news is.
Yeah. So the big news is they have asked us, or we've kind of jointly discussed doing a second edition. So a new version of Comfortably Wild, but this one is a little bit broader than just glamping, but it's regenerative resorts, eco lodges, retreats, but worldwide. So we're looking for the most regenerative properties that still connect people with nature, but also have a strong emphasis on protecting the environments that they're built within, for giving back and uplifting the communities that surround them and work in them. So we're really trying to be conscious to find these properties worldwide. So we're going to spend, that's what's starting in February. We're going to be international for the next 16 months or so, reviewing these resorts. So a little call to action for anybody listening. If you've ever stayed in a property that, boutique type property that has those regenerative properties that I was describing there. Yeah.
Like, regenerative, just as quick, because it's become a buzz term only in the past couple of years, is the idea that we've always talked about, like, eco-friendly and sustainable, which is the concept of kind of like minimal impact. Travel is at a breaking point where we need to be doing better than that. We need to be seeing how can we be improving these places and supporting these communities. And so and you can still be having fantastic vacations and all the things you love about travel, but just making slightly better choices. We're going to do the research to find those places that are, the best experience you can have, but also the best for that environment and those communities. So it takes a lot more to find those, but that is who deserves the spotlight, because that's where travel needs to be heading, with how many more travelers are hitting the road and cheap travel deals. And, it gets very tempting to do the easy thing versus do the right thing. But we promise you, when you make those choices, like, you'll feel that much more fulfilled too.
So we've got a ton, but if anybody else listening has some they want us to check out, just shoot us a DM at HoneyTrek. We'll put it on the calendar.
That's so exciting. Wow. So going global again.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is that we've been traveling globally for so long. We have some absolute favorite places that, if the first book wasn't limited to North America, would have included them. So it's very easy to, like, let the big guys win, because they're super luxurious. And, for $4,000 a night, you can get some pretty darn nice places to stay. But we don't want this to be exclusionary. We think that regenerative travel is available no matter your budget. So we want the range of accommodations and price points so that everyone can participate.
It'll be fun as a witness to see what you discover. And so for those of you who don't know, you guys have Buddy the camper. So what's happening to Buddy while you go global?
Oh, cover your ears, buddy. We're in the camper right now. He's going to probably live a not as glamorous life in a storage unit somewhere for most of the next year and a half.
But he's been, like, so good at RV, van life, however you want to call it. When we initially were looking at this, which was end of 2016, we were starting to research camper vans and RVs and thinking, okay, maybe let's do a little more exploring in the US and Canada and Mexico. And because we had been abroad for basically 5 years straight. And when we were doing that research, we were thinking, wow, but if we own this thing, then we're going to be tied to it, and we're going to travel internationally so much less, because we'll need to worry about this thing, and it'll be in, big cities. But he's had a lot of practice of being left at long-term storage, because we still go abroad for, I would say, about 5 to 6 months every year. So he's left for 3-4 months at a time at different long-term storage or airport parking lots if it's a short trip. So he's used to being like, just put a tarp on him, unplug the battery and come back. But it's just such a nice tool in our lifestyle. And a lot of people will ask, like, how are you still going 13 years on? Like, how do you guys keep going? And between all the amazing places we get to see, the people we get to meet, the house sitting is a great hack when we want to slow down and write a book, or just like have a little home and a pet for a little bit. having the RV is a great adventure tool. We've got all of our stuff on the roof, our ski gear, all our clothes are in here. We've got our own kitchen. It's just such a nice thing to come back from a trip. And it obviously moves every few days, but it is home to us. So it's a cool little tool in our arsenal that when we want to slow down or we don't have any gigs, we're just out in the woods, kayaking and just loving life.
And to explain the chapters of HoneyTrek, the first 5 years of our trip, we were backpacking around the world with literally keys to nothing. So the idea of buying a camper at first was like, oh, I don't want this thing to like weigh me down. I don't want any, we're so minimalistic at that point. I didn't even want this to a degree, but then I was like, but to put my stuff away, have a refrigerator, sleep in the same bed, and have a car when I'm back in the States, to have a house and a transportation all rolled into one, a storage unit. It was like, this is brilliant. It's been such a great thing. And yes, so we're big fans of camper life world, but it's also, that's one style of travel too. We meet RVers and we're like, make sure you try other styles of travel too. This is like one version, but we do think it's a great version to throw in the mix.
Yeah, and I have to say, I travel the world by sail most of the time. Like I worked on sailboats for a long, long time. And I love that I could travel, not have to carry my stuff with me. It just moved right along with me. I was like, that was such a luxury after traveling for so long. I was like, sweet, my stuff comes with me and I don't have to carry it. So we're close on time, but I really want to touch base on one topic of conversation that I know was big. You and I think, message when this happened. Something I want to talk about a little bit is medical tourism, because you guys had a situation, I think, this past year. And so the conversation came up like, hey, as a digital nomad, especially as an American, what do you do for insurance? What do you guys do being nomadic for all of these years? And how did you navigate that?
I'll let Mike answer this question, but we just booked 3 doctor's appointments in Mexicali for this Friday. So yes.
We do a combination. The first 3 years of our trip, we used World Nomads, kind of like Safety Wing, and they would pretty affordably cover anything catastrophic that would happen to us on the road, get us out of any sticky situation or anything traumatic that would happen to us. Then we switched to Allianz. And so we've been using Allianz All Trips since I think like 2015 or so. So that's coming up on 10 years. This will be the 10th year we've had them. It's so nice. I think our plan's like $450 for the 2 of us. And it covers every single flight we take, every hotel we book, any rental car, our luggage, anything that gets canceled. They'll also do medical stuff. So if we fall and break an arm in Thailand, go to the doctor, it's all covered. So they've been super good. We like using them. And then recently,
that's for basically catastrophic medical, but we're like, that travel insurance will obviously not cover cancer. So did have like a basal stuff. Cell, like I have a lot of skin cancer in my family. So it isn't a huge deal, but like, it was a wake up call at 40 to be like, oh man, I'm getting skin cancer removed already. Like, this is bad. And how bad could it be? What is our plan? Basically none. And so this is sort of surveyed our nomadic community for, who's doing what makes sense. And there's a lot of plans that exclude Americans because we have the most expensive healthcare. So we could get full coverage in every other country, but not the country we're from. I'm like, that is the problem. So
now we use a company called BMI, and we keep our Allianz because that covers all the trip stuff. And then we use a company called BMI,
which stands for Best Meridian Insurance.
Yeah. And they cover us. It's for nomads. So you need to be out of the country for a certain period of time, but they cover procedures. You can choose your deductible from anywhere from 1,000 to 10, but they'll cover actual medical things. So that's a good backup plan.
In the state. But to be fair, plan is not for everybody because you need to be out of the country half the year.
It's sometimes not a half a year, depends on what country, but that's a good like middle ground where we get covered for our travel stuff, but then we still, if something big happened, who knows, leukemia or cancer or something, or ACL surgery, something big, we would be covered. We can come back to the States, get it done at a whole bunch of doctors.
Abroad is really cheap to pay out of pocket. We've had our teeth cleaned in Mexico multiple times. We actually found a general practitioner we really love in the dentist capital of the world. We had just a normal checkup. He took an hour of his time to talk about, family medical history, go through blood work. And then he did the same, with Mike and then to me. So
for $50.
Right. And I felt the quality of care was excellent. So you did an emergency room situation in Scotland when your knee just randomly got all swollen. We were terrified going to that hospital being like, after he had seen 3 specialists, was given crutches, drugs, on. And we're like, what's the bill gonna be? Oh no. And they said, have a nice day. And we're like, are you serious? Like, you want nothing?
They were like, just sign this that says you got the care done. And we were like, well, there's no amount on here. Am I going to be billed? They're like, no, we don't bill it. But we were like, we're not citizens of Scotland. We're not residents here. They're like, no, everybody gets covered for free. Like, we're a hospital. So we just get people healthy and then they leave. I was like, wow, that's amazing.
I wanted to touch base on that topic because I knew that you guys had gone through it. And so there's a lot of people that, a lot of Americans are digital nomads. I feel like with the digital nomad age, Americans are now finally traveling more, before it was, now we're out there and now people need to know what to do with health insurance. So thanks for that. And so I guess the last question is, do you have a long-term plan? Like, you're just going to keep doing this beautiful lifestyle because you love it? Or do you have an exit strategy? Are there things you want to accomplish that, you feel like are down the line?
Where would we exit to, right? It's like we've already found, I don't want to say nirvana, but like our goal of just traveling together, choosing where we want to go. We make more than enough money to keep doing this for a long time. And I think one of our goals is to continue to push ourselves on the sustainability and the regenerative property, finding ways we can give back and inspiring more people, especially other content creators, to bring that message in. We've been vegan now for 9 years. So that's something we're doing purely for the environment. That's another thing that we're trying to inspire more people to think about. And yeah, in their storytelling, just to always understand the impacts of travel, negative and positive, and try and lean as heavy into the positive as you can, whether you're a storyteller or just a normal traveler looking for where to go, to not just constantly visit these 10 most popular places on Instagram because you want to get that same shot. In Italy, there's 5 cities that everybody goes to and they're colorful houses and they're on the beach and they all want to go there. But there's literally 5,000 other cities in Italy that also have hotels and restaurants that get under 1,000 tourists a year probably. And go to those small towns. People will be so much warmer and kind. They'll be super happy that you decided they're a small town, and it could only be 50 miles from Naples or Sicily. But, get into those small towns, meet people, bring, a kind heart and a smile to those places. So that's, we're always like pushing our own storytelling in that direction.
We're trying to work on a more governmental level, back up better or worse. We've consulted more for tourism boards to think about how do we bring more sustainable choices into the fold, and getting, volunteering into people's mindset when they vacation. And so that's to make more systemic change for tourism. I mean, that's a goal, not just, sharing our pretty little adventures. So there. And then also another piece of HoneyTrek's business, which is sort of fun for us, is we do glamping hospitality consulting. So we love this style of travel and think, as we're saying, regenerative and where we think travel should be going. So we help people create their glamping camps because it's a wonderful lifestyle business too. So people are like, I'm done with the rat race. I just want to be closer to the land and create beautiful experiences to share with people. So that's really fun to use our more hospitality B2B brain. And maybe someday we will start our own glamping camp,
I love it. I love all of the things that you've created and the fact that you have such varied interests and you support yourself in so many ways. And it's just a beautiful example of designing a life that's truly yours and living your best life as who you are together. So thank you for being that example for all of us. It's beautiful.
Awesome. Really thanks so much for the chat today and everybody for listening. Obviously, shoot us a DM or connect up. As Kim said, just honey like a honeymoon, HONEY, and trek like a long trek around the world, TREK. Everywhere, wherever you are, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, say hello.
Kim said, say hello.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely hello. Leave comments on your favorite videos. And yeah, if anybody's thinking about doing a long trip or just wants to jump on a call and pick our brain about travel, we're happy to, do that and spend some time with you to help you either help with your content creation or just see the world in a different way and go on a long trip or start a glamping camp. Who knows? We love sharing what we know with other people and helping them change their lives for the better.
Yeah, I love it. And you're professionals at all of these things. So you're a great resource. So people definitely touch base. And so let's move into the lightning round with 4 quick questions. So the first one is, what is a travel tip or an inside scoop for your current location?
Inside tip is if you're going to Baja, don't just fly right to Cabo or La Paz. Road trip all the way through the center of the peninsula. There is practically no tourists here. It's a super unique and different landscape than those other beach towns, which get all the press and play. And obviously, where there are big hotels, that's who's marketing to you. So just drive.
It's an epic road trip.
It's an epic road trip.
Easy camping. We stayed at a place for $10 the other night that looked like Big Sur, if not more beautiful, and we were the only people there.
Yep.
Because this is not even possible. You'd have to book this like years in advance to get it in California, and you'd pay.
Get your camper van. If you don't have a camper van, go on Outdoorsy is a great site. RV Share is another one. You can scoop up a camper van in San Diego or LA and drive that down here and have a fun little Baja adventure.
Love it. Sounds so good. And question number 2 is, what is a book that has inspired you to design this extraordinary life?
Before we left, and it is still a long-term travel Bible, and we'll give a shout out to Rolf Potts and Vagabonding. That's like classic. But then a more obscure one that is wonderful is How to Ikigai.
Oh, yeah.
So Ikigai is the Japanese concept of sort of finding your life's purpose. And we happened to be interviewed for this book, but there's many chapters of people finding whatever their Ikigai might be. And it written by a wonderful guy, Tim Tomashiro, also had the perfect job as a disc jockey and Canada's biggest radio station. Everyone's like, your life's perfect. Like, what do you mean you're not happy? Well, you know what? Sometimes what is on the surface, it doesn't matter. It's what you feel within. So he went on this wonderful journey interviewing people that he inspired and how they found their Ikigai. And it's a lovely book.
Wow. You guys are interviewed for that book?
We are. Yeah, probably one of like 12 in it or something like that. So not just reading our story. Please don't just read our story. Everyone's story in that book is so much to learn. And Tim is such a wonderful guide to that book.
Wow, that's awesome. I've seen the book. I didn't know you guys were also in it. That's awesome. And question number 3 is, what is something that you always take with you, you never leave home without? So when you leave Buddy, what's the thing that you never leave home without?
We carry our full pillows. Which, you know, we're trying to go travel on luggage. And Mike, I mean, I feel like, oh, it's silly, just one night. Nope, we'll still bring our pillow. Like we always bring it. And mine is like full feather pillow, like kind of ridiculous. But when your world is changing around you, you can come back to one consistent thing that feels like home. I can sleep on like a bus station floor as long as I have my pillow. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we've been in fancy resorts and we give back their pillow because no pillow is better than your pillow.
And the thing that I would say is a 2 thing. It's our Nalgene and then our Nalgene water bottle. And then we have this little UV light called a SteriPen. We also have a bottle called a Lark, which is like our backup. But the Lark and the SteriPen are both UV and they purify, they kill at 99.999% of viruses, protozoa, bacteria in any water in the world. And I can say that that's not just marketing hype or me reading off their label, because we made a pledge to ourselves. We tried to go 1 month in February of 2012. We tried to go 1 month throughout Argentina without consuming a single use water bottle. And to this day, we have, since February of 2012, we have not had a single plastic water bottle to our mouths in that 13 years. Through now 79 countries, we've only drank tap water with our Nalgene and this little UV light. So that is a testament. And we've never been sick from water now. And as you know, we're on the road full time. So we drink a lot of liters of water. So if we can do it and not get sick, we totally want everybody to just go over to Amazon, scoop one up, use it on your next trip. So you don't need to buy 2 or 3 bottles of water every day just to stay hydrated, because that is a tremendous impact as travelers.
That's awesome, because you're right. Single-use plastics are the worst and people consume so much water. So I love that. And I love that testament. You've used it for 13 years. Like, you can't get a better testament to that. So I will link that as well in the show notes, because everyone should pick one of those up. I'm down. Let's see. Question number 4 is, what is on the top of your bucket list for adventures or destinations?
The stands in Central Asia have always lived in mystery. I don't know. We are just dying to get there, and somehow it may happen. I feel like it will in the next year. Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, these places really intrigue me. Georgia. So that is on the horizon.
And Pakistan too. Our video editor, we've done a couple videos with him. He's like, when are you coming to Pakistan? Like, I want to host you guys. I'll take you on a road trip. So
majority of the world's tallest mountains, and no one goes there. And there's also a very cool glamping scene that's brewing there. So
and Greenland. That would be one of mine.
Well, thank you so much. And everyone can find you on honeytrek.com on all the channels. As I said, you are everywhere and it's amazing. And so thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your beautiful story.
Thank you so much, Kim.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, and happy travels. I love so much about that episode, and here are the key takeaways. Number 1, it can be really hard to break out of the social norms and the societal expectations that you were raised with. But just give yourself permission to forget those rules and write new ones. Number 2, the key to creating a successful business and relationship together as a couple is to first love one another and love what you do. Number 3, if you're interested in long-term travel as a couple and you haven't tried it yet, before you quit your job and sell the house, try it out. Take a shorter 3 to 5 week trip that is not fully planned and see how you go. You may love it or you may not, but try it out. Number 4, leave room for the magic of travel by having free time in your schedule. And live with more yeses than nos. Number 5, every country has its highlights and its top 10 lists. Getting off the beaten path and into the smaller cities and the smaller towns will give you such a joyful experience. You'll meet the locals and you won't be treated just like a number. Number 6, as travelers, it's our responsibility to give back to the places and the cultures that we visit. An easy way to do this is to cut out single-use plastics. Mike and Ann have gone 12 or 13 years without using a single-use plastic water bottle, and you can too. So definitely check out that link in the show notes to get yourself a UV sanitizer, water purifier, device where you too can help leave less of a footprint on the places that you visit. The quote that I would like to leave you with today is from Bo Taplin. And Bo said, "Home is not where you are from. It is where you belong. Some of us travel the whole world to find it. Others find it in a person." When I came across this quote, I thought it was absolutely perfect. Mike and Ann have found a partner in life in one another. They have created a life that's truly theirs and suits who they are as individuals and as a couple. I love the fact that they are on the world's longest honeymoon. It's a testament to their love and their adventure and the beauty in the world that we get to experience when we share it with another. I hope that you have someone today that you get to share an adventure with. And if not, then may you meet someone on the road to share your day. Here's to long-lasting loves and even longer honeymoons. Until next time, my friends. Thank you so much for showing up and listening to this episode. I know that there are so many things in life that you could be doing right now. And so it means a lot to me that you're here. There are so many more episodes coming your way. So if you enjoyed the show, please take a moment to review and follow us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you know someone who might like to hear it, please share. Those little acts of kindness mean a lot and help more than you know. I appreciate your time and getting the opportunity to share this moment. I'd love to hear more from you. I'd love to connect, so reach out on social. You can find me on Instagram at Seafaring Wanderer. That's SeafaringWanderer. And then you can join our Facebook group at Design Her Travel Podcast. I would love to connect, hear more from you. Let me know what you'd like to hear more of, places you'd like to hear about, and things you'd like to know how to do when designing your life. So thank you, everyone, and I'll be back soon.